check, check. Check, check. Okay, I'm a little quiet. What if I turn this up? What about now? That's a little better. Okay, we'll roll with that for today. I'm back! It only took like a week. It's only been a week, I think, but it feels like it's been longer. You may notice the camera angle is worse. The new computer that I was streaming from the week before last, the graphics card started artifacting on me, which is very not good. So it's still with the company I bought it from getting repaired, but I didn't want to be on such a long break from streaming while I wait for it. So we're just going to stream like this using my old laptop. Persona 4 is probably going to go on hiatus until I get that computer back. And the schedule is probably going to change. But with all of that being said, it's good to be back. And if you want to stay informed on these schedule changes, the best way to do that is to join my Discord. Susato was already gone. Outside the window, the rain came down in sheets, and so began an even longer day than the last, one I would remember for the rest of my days. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Good morning, Gina. I'm determined to prove your innocence today. I'm sure we can do it. So where's your friend then? Sorry? You know, her in the fancy dress. Hold on, I am gonna get something to drink. Alright. So part of the reason the schedule is actually going to be changing is I started going to, last week I started going to an IRL, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Local that's on Mondays. And I've been having a good time going there, so I think I'm going to keep doing that. I was playing a rocket deck that was pretty good, and now I'm building Fluanderies. Fluanderies is probably going to be my, like, okay, I actually want to win deck. And then rockets are like my fun, like, just messing with it build. This beer is slightly frozen. It's not bad, but It's not as though Miss Susato and I won't meet again one day. Even so. But you, Gina, you only get one chance. This trial today is all we have. Good morning, you two. How are you feeling, Ginny? Did you manage to sleep? Meow. Iris, what are you doing here? What do you mean? When a friend is in need, we show our support. Isn't that right, Waggy? Meow. Ah, Waggy! Great way to show your support, kitty. Let him have a nose around. What harm can it do? Oh, that reminds me. I bought a paper on the way here. I feel like this is like Chekhov's cat almost. Like, why would they show Iris bringing the cat here and having it just like jump out of her arms and run away unless it's gonna come back in like a moment of need? Oh, that reminds me, I bought a paper on the way here. Now, would you like the good news or the bad news? What do you say, Runo, Ginny? Oh, well, I think I'd rather get the bad news out of the way first. Nah, always take the good news first. You might not live to hear the bad. Yes, that question always gives away people's personalities. Let's not go there. Alright, then I'll give you the bad news first. A record amount of rain has fallen this morning, and carriages all over the capital are struggling to move. Huh? The bad news was a weather report? So I hope that Susie made her train to Dover, and that the train isn't delayed on its way to the port. Gosh, yes. Alright then, so what's the good news? Well, the rain is forecast to subside this afternoon, so even if the train is delayed, it should be able to make up the time later. Well, that is good news, isn't it? I couldn't give a monkey's, really. If only all good news canceled out the bad. And look, this trial has made the headlines too. Pawnbroker perishes in pick-purse plunder. See. How'd you like that? Well, let them say what they want. See if I care. I can't because you're covering your face. Don't worry, Runo will soon show everyone that this headline is nonsense. I will. And then in tomorrow's papers, the headline will be, Discharged diver is dauntless do-gooder. Isn't that right, Runo? Oh, yes, let's hope so. Of course they will. I have absolute faith in you. How was that? I was trying to sound like Susie. Did it work? Did it? It's like she was still here. Today's paper has been entered into the court record. Why is today's paper relevant? Good luck then, Runo. I'll do what I can. So let's examine it. There's a sensational story lower down the front page as well. Look. Ministry Mole? Classified secrets may have been leaked overseas from Ministry of Justice. For a 10-year-old, Iris certainly has her finger on the pulse of world news. It's about secret communications between Great Britain and its allies. Apparently they're being intercepted by hostile nations. Communications are being intercepted, but how would somebody be doing that? That's the question, isn't it? I've come up with 3 different possible methods so far. Are you looking for a new career, Runo? No, of course not. I wonder. Perhaps this is what Lord Strongheart was talking about yesterday. Yes, it could be, and it could explain why he has Gregsy running from pillar to post at the moment. Sorry, you may hear some sounds, and by some sounds I mean apparently a lot of sounds. there's going to be a lot of loud noises now. I'm just gonna fix this. Okay, now the actual noise I was gonna prepare you for is I'm gonna plug in my phone to charge. Oh, never mind, you aren't even gonna hear it because it's not plugged into my computer, it's plugged into the wall. Anyway. I assume that was what we actually had to see. Bigger house. Proud pickpocket protects planet post-trial, perhaps. Protects planet? Oh, I can't wait for tomorrow now. It's gonna be so great. Also, fair warning, since it has been like 2 weeks since I've looked at this, I've probably forgotten most of the details of the case. Obviously, I don't know the law like Susie does, but still. I'll be by your side the whole time, giving you moral support and encouragement. I'm not sure that big thing is as comforting as you think it is, to be honest, but thank you, Iris. That's very kind of you. Oh yeah, Iris. Yes, Ginny? Well, I was wondering is all about Sholmes. Did they fix him up all right? Yes, the operation was a great success, but Curly still hasn't come around yet. Eh? I've asked a friend of mine at Scotland Yard to send a telegram as soon as he wakes up. I'm sure Gregson will let us know the moment there's news. Oh, right. No Susato-san and no Mr. Sholmes. It's all down to me today to prove that Gina is innocent of this crime. Miss Gina Lestrade, counsel for the defense, the trial is about to begin. Please make your way into the courtroom. It's time then. Yes, let's go. Gina, Iris. Lead the way, Runo. Poor Gina. She's trying to put on a brave face, but I can tell she's worried and scared. I have to believe in her from start to finish. That's the weapon that will secure our victory here. If I learned anything from my great friend, it's that... Oh, it's that. Just that we have to believe, I guess. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. This trial shall determine the guilt or innocence of Miss Gina Lestrade. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and the defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready. Lord Van Zieks, my lord, remind me, how many years ago was it that you withdrew from the public prosecution service? It was some 5 years ago, my lord. Yes, and then 2 months ago you resurfaced somewhat unexpectedly, and here you are again today. Are there some circumstances of which the court should be aware that has led to this erratic behavior? In what one might describe as your former life 5 years past, you dealt exclusively in matters concerned with the highest echelons of society and government. Really? Yet today you choose to try a simple case of burglary and murder. And confess I find it more than a little befuddling, counsel. There are 2 types of person I cannot abide. Firstly, those wealthy scoundrels who hide behind a mask of philanthropy to cheat the public at large. Hear, hear. He means Mr. McGilded, who you defended against the Reaper 2 months ago. Yes, I just about managed to work that out, thank you. Magnus McGilded, if I had known what a monster he was, I never would have defended him. And secondly, even more loathsome, those wily scoundrels who masquerade as allies only to effect total betrayal in the final hour. In other words, the confidence tricksters from those tiny islands in the Far East. The Nipponese. That's kinda... Yeah, I'm with you, Ryunosuke. Did he really just say that? He means you now, Runo. I actually managed to work that out too. Thank you, Iris. Total betrayal? What are you talking about? That torrid look of hatred in Lord Van Zeek's eyes. Was that directed solely at me, or was he talking about all Japanese people? An alarmingly scathing explanation, Lord Van Zeeks. Still, the judiciary welcomes the return of the so-called Reaper of the Bailey, feared by all London's malefactors. Your lordship is too kind. Now, jurors, the 6 of you have been selected at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to hear the evidence placed before you and determine the guilt or innocence of the defendant? Hold on, these are all people we've seen before, right? In the jury? I'm not 100% sure if we've seen the guy all the way on the right. Or the third guy. But we've definitely seen the rest. Former lieutenant in the British Army here, don't you know? Chaps like me were born ready. Clean crockery, clean cutlery, and a clean conscience. His lordship's motto is very appropriate here, I think. Everything will be stereoscopic in the future. Absolutely, absolutely everything, and I'm ready for it. I don't understand it. I can't have left it in there. It's not possible, but could I have? Women indispensable in society. Stop. Female-centric future awaits. Stop. Good day. I am visiting London for sightseeing. I would like to take bus to Crystal Tower, please. Wait, that's the lady who was on the... Or no, this is like... Hold on. This is the guy that we thought that lady was in case 2. Is something wrong, Runo? Oh, not exactly, it's just... I'm fairly sure I recognize these jurors. Almost all of them, in fact. Really? Funny coincidences like that do happen from time to time, don't they? But it is quite strange the jurors are chosen at random from London's 6 million inhabitants, you know? So I've been led to believe, but something tells me I'm being duped. Very well. Now, Lord Van Zeeks, the court calls upon the prosecution to introduce the facts of the case. As you wish, my lord. Allow me to begin with a word of warning to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury. In short, there has never been a more self-evident case of cold-blooded murder. The victim, Mr. Pop Windebank, proprietor of a pawn shop on Baker Street, was shot from behind and died instantly. The prosecution presents this photographic print of the crime scene. Excuse me. As the court will observe, there is a single bullet wound just below the gentleman's left shoulder. The evidence suggests that this bullet pierced the man's heart, resulting in near-instant death. Moving on to the findings of Scotland Yard's coroner. His report states that the bullet entered the body on a rising diagonal trajectory. And what's that supposed to tell us? It means the victim was likely shot by someone significantly shorter in height than himself. Someone like the accused, you might say. The prosecution wishes to present the autopsy report and crime scene photograph as evidence, my lord. Indeed, the court accepts. Hand them to the bailiff, please. We'll check those out in a second. I now ask the court to turn its attention to this plan of the establishment where the incident occurred. Let's check on these now. Okay. Occupation, pawnbroker, time of death 1 to 1:30 a.m. Reporting party, us. Coroner, Dr. Stevens. I don't know if that'll come up, but hey. Post-mortem findings, single bullet wound in upper half of victim's back, no other visible signs of trauma. Instant death from a postero-anterior bullet wound to the heart. The bullet entered the body from the back on a gently rising diagonal trajectory. And then the photograph. I don't think there's anything particularly special about the photograph. Sorry, the way this is set up, I actually can't see part of the screen behind my monitor. So I may occasionally have to, like, peek around the corner. It asked the court to turn its attention to this plan of the establishment where the incident occurred. The proprietor was found in the storeroom where he kept articles pawned to him. A windowless room with a single point of entry, a door to the main shop that was found locked. In the sealed chamber, there were only 2 persons present. The victim, Mr. Wendebank, and the accused. It may further interest the court to know that when the accused was discovered at the scene, she had in her hand the gun used to fire the fatal bullet. I mean, do we know it's the gun used? Isn't that grubby little girl a pickpocket anyway? She's one of those filthy drabs that live in the slums in the East End. Oh well, it was only a matter of time before she got blood on her hands then. What are the churls waiting for? The girl's guilty as hell. We can't jump to conclusions here. We mustn't assume her guilt because of what she has to do to survive. My learned Nipponese friend, it is you who mustn't jump to conclusions. The prosecution has barely begun presenting its case. Conveniently, this appalling act of murder did not go unobserved. There were witnesses. Good gracious! After their testimony, this girl's true nature will be exposed. Pitiful pick-purse or cold-hearted killer. Here's to establishing the truth. The court will take the floor plan and firearm into evidence. Hand them to the bailiff, please, Lord Van Zeeks. At once, my lord. Crime scene floor plan. And Wendebank's revolver. This isn't good. Let's check out our new evidence as well. Anything of interest? It doesn't look like it. How many bullets are in the chamber? This is Mr. Wendebank's gun. The cylinder is completely empty. Mr. Wendebank always used to keep this gun to hand on his shop counter. Yes, but only ever with a single bullet loaded, I understand. It's right to keep all the pawned articles that were in his care safe. But his one bullet was fired that night and the poor man lost his life. Was he protecting his shop, I wonder, trying to keep the articles safe? There's lots of little screws on it, but we don't, like, have a screwdriver. I think there's nothing else to know about this. Okay. Nothing of interest about that yet. I feel like the mood in here has turned very gloomy all of a sudden, Runo. I think that's because it has. Let us begin. Bring forth the witnesses to the foul murder of Mr. Pot Windebank on 16th of April this year. Witnesses, state your names and occupations to the court. Name's Nash Skulkin. Occupation is, baddie. Professional baddie. Name's Ringo Skulkin. Occupation's, same as him. Tobias Gregson, Scotland Yard Inspector. That's right, we're what they call the Three Skulkin Brothers. What are you looking at me like that for? Don't lump me in with you lot. Core blimey, that's cold. Don't you know what we're going through? It's our older bruv. Lost contact with him we have. So we're scouring every shady corner of the capital. And then last night we come across you, the very spit of the bloke. Ain't that right, Ringo? He is, Nash, he is. The very spit of him. So we decided there and then what we was gonna do, we was gonna call you Big Bruv Skulky. So I feel like I should maybe explain, Ringo is the Japanese word for apple. So that would be why, the one guy has, an apple. Sulky Skulkin. And that's before he's run out of chips. Well then, Inspector Sulky Gregson. Begging your pardon, my lord, but the name's Tobias. What I would like to know, Inspector, is what you are doing in the witness stand. The Skulkin Brothers are currently under arrest, my lord, on suspicion of theft. Thieves are they, these three? No, my lord, begging your pardon, but please don't lump me in with this lot. 2 nights ago, these 2 brothers illegally entered an establishment with intent to burgle, and in the course of their nefarious activities, they became embroiled in a far more sinister crime. By Jove, you mean to say, what an extraordinary coincidence. Indeed, my lord, while attempting to burglarize the pawnbrokery, they witnessed its proprietor's murder. Order, order! The various trespasses of these brothers is not the subject of today's proceedings. Hold on. I don't know if Nash is like a Englishification of the Japanese word for pear. I wouldn't be surprised if Ringo being like apple, like if originally the joke was that his name was Pear. Though they will naturally face trial in this very near future. With your lordship's permission, I'd like to remain in the stand to keep these gents on the straight and narrow. Of course, Inspector. Skeptical as I am about the caliber of these witnesses, I will permit them to take the stand. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin, you will now testify before the court, describe the events of the night in question and what exactly you saw. Happy to. Because a skulkin's never skulkin'. Get out of it. We was walking down Baker Street in the small hours and the gaff store was ajar, see? It was like some kind of sign, begging for us to go in, it was. But once we got inside, core blimey lummy, We heard a gunshot from the back room. We went to see what was what, but the door was locked from the inside. We never done nothing, Governor. We never took nothing. We just went after that nice and quiet. A terrible coincidence it would seem. At the precise moment these miscreants entered the property, an even more sinister crime was afoot. The witness's testimony is consistent with the crime scene in every detail. The door providing access to the storeroom from the main shop was indeed locked from the inside. And within, only the victim and the accused were found. I must say, it does appear to be an overwhelmingly simple case. Still, the defense may cross-examine the witnesses now, of course. Counsel, if you please. Counsel? Yes. What's the matter, Runo? Sorry, I was just stunned into silence for a minute by the blatant lies being told by that pair in the stand. I know that it's all nonsense because I saw it with my own eyes. I'll just have to expose their testimony for the pack of lies it is. So I think the, like some kind of sign begging for us to go in. Once we got inside, Cor blimey lummy, we heard a gunshot from the back room. We went to see what was what, but the door was locked from the inside. Hold it! You mean the door between the main shop and the storeroom? My learned friend is having difficulty grasping the situation. Perhaps a drawing would help. Excluding the shop's entrance from the street, there is only one other door, that of the storeroom. Of course, there was only a little oil lamp burning, not much to see by. And the door was hidden behind a curtain and all. That's right. When we arrived, the door was mostly obscured by the curtain. Tell me, why exactly did you try to open that door? Eh? Any normal petty thief would run at the sound of a gunshot, I should think. Oh, well, your turn to rabbit, Ringo. Well, Nash, yeah. I suppose you'd have to say we ain't normal, eh? Broadly speaking, humans respond in one of two ways on hearing a gunshot or scream. The timid flee, gripped by fear, while the courageous investigate to see if they might help. These gentlemen are of the latter inclination, my learned Newfoundland's friend. It would seem is of the former. Yes, these thieves are certainly very noble. I mean, normally I'm down with that kind of don't commit crimes. But I won't judge anyone who has. But I can tell the prosecution would not think that. Thank you, counsels. So I believe we all understand that this door was locked and could not be opened. Proceed, witnesses. We just left after that nice and quiet. Can we just, like, straight up present anything to this? I think we have to press on this because we don't have any evidence. You didn't do or take anything? Is that your story? Well, it was bedlam soon as, weren't it? It was, Nash, it was. Didn't even have time to pull me dukes out, me Lucy lockets. So with no time to take your hands out of your pockets, you just left nice and quietly, you say. That's right, Governor. Nothing we ain't more than violence. Peace-loving nibblers we are, not bludgers. We are, Nash, we are. Never even pulled me dukes out me Lucy lockets. So you'd clearly like us to believe. Eh, come again? As you fled from the pawnbrokers that night, did you not run into anyone else? And did you not fire a gun at that person? Saints alive, they fired a gun, you say? Ah. Blimey, Governor. You ain't telling us it was you in the doorway. It was. Why the bleeding Nora? Didn't you mention that before? You were armed with a gun, and as you fled the scene you fired that gun at London's greatest detective, Herlock Sholmes. They shot the great Mr. Sholmes? I did hear that, actually. There was a rumor he'd been rushed to hospital. The great Sholmes, that's beyond the pale. On the night in question, this pair were arrested by the police within minutes of the discovery of the crime scene. Their suspicious countenance rapidly gave them away. Hey. And when searched, a firearm was indeed found in their possession. Furthermore, the barrel shows signs of a shot having been fired from it. The prosecution invites his lordship to examine the firearm recovered from these brothers. Yes, indeed, remnants of powder around the muzzle, as you say, counsel. The court will hold this weapon as evidence. Okay, we should check that thing out. Now, my learned Nipponi's friend. Yes. Here's to you successfully presenting the evidence. For yes, there are telltale signs of spent powder on this gun and a single bullet missing from the cylinder. I mean, why would we not just, like, lead with all of this? So there's ammunition. There's ammunition still loaded in 5 of this revolver's 6 cylinders, which tells us that only a single shot has been fired from it. Exactly. The bullet that hit Hurley, in fact, isn't it? Yes, it happened almost as soon as we walked in through Windibank's door. I'll make those brothers pay. Is there any other notable evidence about this thing? But the prosecution demands evidence that it was fired at the scene of the crime under scrutiny of this trial. Well, I don't need evidence, because I was there. However, the rest of us in this courtroom were not. If the defense fails to provide evidence in support of its rash claim, we shall have no choice but to toast your incompetence and move on. Evidence that these two fired that gun before they left Windibanks that night. I mean, there was a bullet. What evidence shows that these witnesses unloaded a firearm in the pawnbroker's shop that night? Could we present... What could we present? The evidence is in this portfolio. What on earth have you there, counsel? During the course of our investigations, we discovered a number of bloodstains. Not trusting the police to do the job they're trained to do, how arrogantly Nipponese of you. Well, anyway, we analyzed all the blood samples we found and recorded the results in this portfolio. You claim to have the evidence the court is demanding therein? Yes, my lord. No more dallying then, counsel. Present the pertinent evidence at once. What do you have in your portfolio that proves these witnesses unloaded a firearm at the scene?
Take that!
What is that? Explain. It's a photographic print taken at Windibank's pawnbrokery on the day of the incident. From the scene of the crime, is it? Is that a bullet hole? And if my eyes do not deceive me, it appears the bullet is still lodged there. Yes, as your lordship noticed, the bullet pierced Mr. Windibank's calendar. The date shown being the 16th of April, the very day of the pawnbroker's death. The incident occurred 1 hour after midnight, but this indicates that a separate shot had been fired sometime after the calendar had been set to the 16th. That's right, and while it isn't irrefutable, the defense believes this is credible evidence that the witnesses did fire a round from their gun in the pawnbrokers that night. Nah. Order, how does the prosecution stand, Lord Van Zeeks? If that is the direction, my learned friend wishes to take, the prosecution has no objections. What? But you'll forgive me for flinging my hallowed chalice aside in disgust at the repugnancy it exposes. Yes, on the night in question, these brothers entered the pawnbrokery illegally, and like the bold baddies, they claimed to be opened fire on the new arrivals before fleeing back onto the street. Take it easy there, Governor. You're gonna land us in the soup. We had a deal. You weren't gonna get into them details. Tell him, Sulky, set the bloke straight. I have nothing to add. So he knew, did he? The Van Zeeks knew their testimony would almost certainly expose the extent of their crimes. It would seem now that I owe my learned Nipponese friend a word of gratitude. What do you mean? What I mean is that you have helpfully confirmed an important fact. What fact do you refer, Lord Van Zeeks? As has been established at the point of their arrest, a single shot had been fired from the brother's gun. However, if that shot found its target in Mr. Sholmes, then clearly these witnesses cannot be accused of the fatal shooting of the proprietor and victim. Ah. In other words, these two men have no material connection to the murder of Mr. Windibank at all. So that's it. That's it, we didn't have nothing to do with it. We didn't, Nash, we didn't. That's what I reckon. Your crimes include unlawful entry, intent to steal, perjury, and let us not forget attempted murder. Quite a catalog, eh, fellas? Ah. We're in for it now, bruv. Now then, let us take a moment to consider the aforementioned great detective Mr. Herlock Sholmes. It would seem the man patronized the pawnbrokers in question somewhat regularly. Where's he going with this? Mr. Sholmes appears to take pleasure in tinkering with eccentric machinery. Eccentric, says who? Not me, don't give me that look. Installed a pair of machines like this one in the victim's shop. Oh, that's one of Hurley's red-handed recorders. What is that, Counsel? It has the appearance of a photographic contraption. As your lordship has surmised, it is indeed a camera attached to a small timing device. Every half an hour, it automatically photographs the interior of the establishment. The idea being that if a thief were to break into the shop, he would be caught red-handed. Prosecution has obtained the photographs taken by the device on the night in question. $39, nothing, 9:30. This court will observe copious identical prints are produced in a quite desultory fashion. Rather prodigal, I feel. In fact, there are 2 such devices in the victim shop, my lord. I will refer the court to the plan of the premise. Their respective positions are here. Here and here. You say these cameras produce a print every half hour. I'm afraid I failed to see how that would help. He anticipated he had conducted his activities in one of the many 30-minute intervals. One can only pray that the would-be criminal lingers, my lord. The night in question, witnesses currently in the stand were not caught on camera. Hey, that's a bit of Friar Tuck, eh, bro? Lady Luck loves a Skulkin. Witnesses, at what time did your trespassing begin? It must have been just after 1, right, bro? Must have been, Nash. Must have been. Yeah, just gone 1. In which case, minutes before these brothers entered the establishment, what scene might we expect to see within the shop? Let us examine the evidence. Good lord! It's the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. As the court can clearly see, the accused is pictured, gun in hand, facing the victim over the shop counter. No doubt coercing the proprietor to open the door to his storeroom. Quite, one can too easily imagine the events that unfolded. The court will take this photographic print as evidence, if you please, counsel. Ugh. I don't believe it. Ginny! In short, the accused is the only person who could have possibly killed Mr. Wendebank. Ugh. I say, my lord. I wonder if I might put in a word at this point. Go ahead, Mr. Foreman. Took a bally bullet to the knee in the Battle of Maiwand, 1880, don't you know? Decorated for it and all that, but forced to retire from services, sadly. Of course, a medal can never outshine the exploits of chaps like us on the battlefield. Yes, Mr. Foreman, and what exactly is your point? Carried on the battle after retirement, you see, the battle of daily life, if you like, and here I am now leading this small squadron, 6 men, all good and true. If we'll all go down together, you mark my words, one for all and all for one. The ladies and gentlemen of the jury have reached agreement, have they? Is that what we are to understand? Well, Mr. Foreman, is that correct? In a manner of speaking, yes. That is the Garadeb Squadron's position, sir. What? No, it's too soon to make a judgment. Status report for the court, man, on the double. His lordship insists on promptitude at all times, and that goes for making decisions, too. I think you'll find the truth is as clear as day now. I could reach out and touch it. I wouldn't have left it in there, I just wouldn't, but in all honesty, I can't actually remember. Situation clear. Stop. No room for doubt. Stop. Truth now undeniable. Stop. I am very sorry for brothers. They are unlucky. Very well, I now call upon each member of the jury to state his or her leaning in this matter. Announce considerable verdicts in court.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
It does indeed appear the jury is unanimous in its leaning already. That photograph, it must be the definitive evidence that Gregson mentioned. But Ginny didn't shoot him. No, of course not. My lord. The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination. court grants permission. So you refuse to admit defeat again. How unsurprising. We shall proceed immediately with the summation examination. Mr. Foreman, are all members of the jury ready? Absolutely, sir. Always ready for action, my chaps. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty. The jurors' contentions. All the evidence clearly points the finger of guilt at this young pickpocket. All the evidence clearly points the finger of guilt at this young pickpocketine. Pickpocketienne? As a housemaid, I should like to see all filthy eyesores promptly and rigorously eliminated. I think you'll find that if you look at that photograph in stereo, the truth will just pop out. If I have left it in there, I should think there will be repercussions by now. Mind made up. Stop. Global radio transmission of verdict to follow. Stop. In Motherland, we say never judge by clothes, judge by head. I am convinced brothers are innocent. The circumstances of the crime and the evidence do indeed implicate the defendant rather comprehensively. A storeroom locked from the inside in which the victim and the accused were discovered alone. And in the accused hand, the fatal revolver, the firing of which was heard by these witnesses. Not to mention this print. Take it from a chap who's seen action on the battlefield, that young girl's on the verge of pulling the valley trigger. Thanks a lot, Mr. Sholmes. Oh dear, Hurley's cameras were supposed to help, not hinder. I'm afraid I think you have an uphill struggle ahead of you. Gina didn't shoot Mr. Windibank. Which means there's more to this situation than we have yet to see. Agreed. You have the floor, counsel. Proceed with the summation examination. This one's going to be difficult. The defense's rebuttal. The evidence clearly points the finger of guilt. I think we're going to have to find evidence that shows that it's not the girl for him.
Hold it!
Polishing the bench, I see. Again. Maid's work is never done. Not a blemish must remain. What exactly do you mean by filthy eyesores? On my way to market for his lordship, I have to pass through the East End. The place is full of beggars, pickpursers, and crossmen, the scum of the earth. A little harsh, perhaps. Let me be plain. If it were up to me, all those back slums would be made spick and span or eradicated. At least we have people like the great detective working to achieve these important goals. You're referring to Mr. Herlock Sholmes? That's right, I like to keep abreast of his exploits by reading Ransta magazine in between my duties. He does wonders cleaning up London streets. In my opinion, he should be declared an honorary maid of the capital. Mr. Sholmes, a maid? Really quite unforgivable. Gutter scum having the audacity to shoot our very greatest detective. Minor detail, it was the two brothers in the stand who shot Mr. Sholmes, not the defendant. Minor detail indeed. They're all gutter scum as far as I'm concerned. Jeez. Well, it just might be an idea to get our facts straight anyway. Yes, alright, I shall amend my statement. Those brothers are the scum of the earth. They should swing for shooting the great detective.
Hold it!
What do you mean look at the photograph in stereo? Sorry, what? Don't you know? If you look at the photographic print normally, it looks as though the pickpocket girl is about to shoot the victim, obviously. There's no indication that the defendant ever fired the gun. All I'm saying is that if you look at the same print in stereo, it could reveal all sorts of new information. By any chance, are you a fan of stereoscopes? Oh, how did you know? Call it a lucky guess. Never gets old seeing the two prints merge into one before your eyes. It's extraordinary. It's captivating. It's the height of modernity. Of course. Because I think you'll find that the stereoscope is here to stay, giving us new perspectives we can only dream of before. It's the greatest invention the world has ever seen. Only if you give me a new perspective on this case, I might agree with you. If I had left it in there, I should think there will be repercussions by now. Hold on, I think I just got this. These were 3DS games originally, right? And the 3DS uses stereoscopic 3D. I wonder if, like, the way some of the stuff is supposed to work with the pictures is you're supposed to be able to look at them with the stereoscopic 3D of the 3DS, and that's supposed to, like, reveal new information in them.
Hold it!
What exactly have you been muttering about all this time, sir? You talking about having left something somewhere or something like that? Ah, so sorry. As you can probably tell, I'm a surgeon. A surgeon? That totally passed me by. Of course, people conducting surgery in this country aren't considered to be doctors, oh no. Even though me and my kind are at the forefront of medical science, the real brains in the field. So what is it that you think you've left behind? Ah, well that's a little embarrassing to be honest. You see, I was operating on someone yesterday. Standard thing, went in through the abdomen. And when I'd finished the procedure, I couldn't find my scalpel anywhere. What? Did he surely not? Exactly, surely not, you say to yourself, don't you? Worrying, isn't it? That's what's been troubling me this whole time. Could I really have left my scalpel inside the fellow's belly? No, of course I couldn't. So there you have it. Like I said, a little embarrassing, really. That's one way of putting it. The other is manslaughter. It's exactly my concern, and seeing as this case appears to be all but sewn up, I need to focus on trying to remember exactly what I've sewn up elsewhere. Now, I'm sure I made sure everything was back as it should be. Well, as sure as you can be without being sure. I'm sure you need to be more sure.
Hold it!
Sorry, radio transmission? What do you mean? Are you from the Far East? Stop. Yes, from the Empire of Japan. All communications with Far Eastern nations used to take place by mail. Royal Mail steamers take more than a month to complete the journey. But now we have the electric telegram, so we can send messages using electrical signals. Thousands of miles of cables have been laid along the ocean beds, connecting the entire world. Thousands of miles of cable on the ocean bed? Makes my head hurt just thinking about it. You are well informed, young lady. Hee hee. The cables will soon become a thing of the past. Stop. Just when I was starting to catch up. Radio transmission is the future. Stop. Messages carried over airwaves to 4 corners of globe. Stop. Excitement growing. Stop. Atmosphere electric. Stop. Right. Try not to wear out your fingers. Era of wireless telegraphy. Stop. Driving technological revolution. Stop. When people say inventions like the stereoscope are the height of technology, what utter piffle. Can't understand it? I really can't. They're just silly toys.
Excuse me.
Juror number 3, sorry to interrupt when you're obviously fuming, but... What? Do you perhaps have something to say about juror number 5's last remark? As if I couldn't guess. Oh, you bet I do. Say that again. Go on, I dare you. Goodness, are you talking to me? I think he just might be, yes. You think stereoscopes are just toys, do you, huh? Absolutely, I mean really. A machine to view photographs in 3 dimensions. Why on earth would you not just use your eyes to look at the world around you? It's all three-dimensional. What a great way to appease the man. No, I'm sorry. Stereoscopes are of no practical use at all. You just don't know. Pardon? I think you'll find that viewing a photograph through a stereoscope can unlock all sorts of possibilities. I'm obviously going to have to demonstrate. What sort of possibilities? I'll take a crime scene, for example. If you had a pair of photographs from a crime scene that you could view through a stereoscope, it could reveal hidden clues you'd never even noticed before. What? Have you got any, Runa? Any prints we could look at with a stereoscope? Do we? Hold on, didn't we take our own picture of Mr. Wendebank? We took a picture of where he was, but... None spring to mind. No, I don't think so. None spring to mind, anyway. Well, if you find any, we should definitely try it. I think we're just gonna find prints of this crime scene laying around, you know, but I suppose if we somehow find ourselves with some, it would be worth a go.
Hold it!
Please tell me you're not Violin Bolshevik? The Russian revolutionary? Revolutionary? Duh, I believe there is such a rumor. It's just a rumor? As you see, I have unfortunate appearance. I look like vicious criminal. Your words, not mine, just want to point that out. People call me revolutionary, murderer, autocrat. And which glove fits? Good day, I am visiting London for sightseeing. I would like to take bus to Crystal Tower, please. Right, that didn't sound staged at all. You'll forgive me for having my doubts. To be treated like vicious criminal all the time, it is very painful. People do not realize. So I have much sympathies for these brothers. People say they are criminals only because of how they look. The Skulkin Brothers? Duh, maybe they went inside pawnbroker's shop. But they have done nothing wrong. That is all what I want to say. Skulkin Brothers did nothing wrong that night? Alright, well first of all, that's one not-so-little misunderstanding I'll need to clear up straight away. Tell me something, Iris. What is it, Runo? The jurors are chosen at random from the inhabitants of London town, aren't they? Yes, it's amazing, isn't it? In that case... how is it that there's a Russian tourist sitting among them who looks for all the world like a revolutionary? I wish I knew. If I can't change the minds of more than half of these 6 jurors, the trial will be over. And we know that Ginny would never shoot anyone. Yes, so we need to find contradictions in what these jurors are saying and pit them against each other. I must be ready to go to whatever lengths I have to convince them of Gina's innocence. You're Mr. Natsume's landlord, Mr. Garadev, aren't you? We really must stop meeting like this. Ah, you're that lawyer chap. Well, there's a turn-up for the books. Yes, rather a turbulent time we had back then. Some extraordinary events took place at your house, that's for sure. Luckily, Mr. Sholmes and I were able to get to the bottom of it all. I think we did rather a lot for you, didn't we? I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be suggesting that therefore you should change your leaning to not guilty or anything. Can't be denied, I suppose. Curse of the Garrett house was the talk of the town after that business. Lodgers moved out, and I couldn't get a bally soul to take up the tenancies. Oh. Haven't had the heart to break the news to Joni yet. Bad enough that the old girl's clapped up. Yes, can't be denied. You did do rather a lot, but not for us, that's for dashed certain. Suppose not. Of course. There can be no suggestion of that being the reason I'm leaning towards guilty here, obviously. Obviously, but honestly, I really wish you'd pay more attention to the trial and less to juror number 2. I mean, I think we pit these against each other, right?
Objection!
Those two statements clearly contradict each other. Good lord, counsel, explain yourself. Oh my statement, contradictory. Contradict. C-O-N. Juror number 6, you've got the wrong end of the stick. I do not have stick, I have mouse. As juror number 2 said earlier, when the Skulkin Brothers fled the scene on that night in question, they fired a shot from their revolver. Yes, they shot Mr. Sholmes in the abdomen, I understand. Surely you're not going to tell the court now that you didn't hear. Abdomen. Abdomen. A-B-D... Sir? Sorry, my English is still learning. You are telling the court you didn't hear. Forgive me, I did not hear. Ah, here is word abdomen, part of person's body containing stomach and other vital organs. If this is what you mean, you should say in plain English, I am Russian, not native speaker. Thought it was a good idea to let this man be on the jury again. So, you are telling me these brothers who look like criminals were lying? They said before we never done nothing, the truth is they shot detective. Da, this is double negative. Yes, that's exactly right. Lying is wrong, especially when lie is said by person who looks like criminal. Coming from you, that seems surprisingly prejudiced. This means, when they said we never took nothing, maybe it was also big fat lie. Is this not true? Well, according to the police report, no stolen goods were found, so... Enough, I trust no one now. It's not the mouse's fault though, sir. I must see with own eyes, I must investigate crime scene myself. I'm afraid that won't be Yes, it is, Bruno, easily. Sorry. With the prints from Hurley's red-handed recorder. Ah, if you compare the print that pictures Ginny and the next print from half an hour later, you'll be able to see straight away if anything was taken or not. Cooey, Mr. Prosecutor. Tut tut. Calling on the prosecution in the middle of a summation examination of all times. The print showing the accused threatening the victim after she broke into the shop is this one. Following this, the victim and the accused moved into the storeroom. Meanwhile, the Skulkin Brothers entered the shop and summarily heard the fatal gunshot ring out. Sadly, none of these events were captured on film. This is the print produced by the camera half an hour later after the brothers' flight. So this was taken after Hurley was shot then. As far as I can tell, nothing has been taken. It does seem to be the case. I can't notice anything that's obviously missing in the second print. So the brothers who look like criminals told only one lie. They shot man, but they stole nothing. It would seem so, yes. Good. No, not good. You were right, I did not understand situation. Now I know brothers have lied. I think it is very important to continue with trial. Yay, well done, Runo. The balance is shifting. Well, it's a start, I suppose, but there must be more in what these jurors are saying that I can use to expose the truth. If I can do that, we might just turn the situation to our favor still. Thank you, Counsel. Continue with the Summation Examination. And kindly hand that new photographic print to the bailiff to be filed as evidence. The post-shooting photograph has been entered into the court record. Another print in the court record. I wonder if we can make use of that. Hypothetically, in a stereoscopic fashion. In Lake of Lies are many dead fish. We must find truth, therefore I say not guilty verdict. I like this guy. Okay. Post-shooting photograph. The lamp is broken. Oh right, we have to press on this lady. You. Absolutely we do. How about this print here? It should do the trick, I think.
Take that!
Alright then, jury number 3. Are you saying you can do this with any 2 suitable photographic prints? Of course I can. Very well then, I'd like you to demonstrate. I'd be delighted to. Just give me one more print and I'll amaze you all. So let's present the photographic gene. Alright, these 2 prints were both taken with the same camera and window banks on the night in question. Yes, I see. Tell me, Mr. Lawyer. Do you know how stereographic images work? Do you understand the principle? Well, I think so. I did have a lesson only yesterday. The left and right eye images need to be the same, only with a slight shift in the position of some objects. Then, when your brain merges the 2 images together inside your head, it notices the shift as if it were depth. Yes, exactly. It's the small shift between certain objects that's in the 2 pictures that's really important. So what happens if you use 2 photographs that are exactly the same then? No, obviously that wouldn't work at all, not for seeing the scene 3-dimensionally anyway. Oh, of course, now I see. Ah, I think the young girl has discovered the secret. I have! Can you uncross your eyes before you tell me? Have another look at these 2 pictures from Hurley's camera, Runo. Go on. Can you see that there's a really obvious difference between them? Of course there is. There are 2 people in the first and no people in the second. Well, yes, you can see that straight away. But now, try looking at the picture in 3 dimensions. Alright, I'll give it a go. To start with, you have to cross your eyes and then try to make the 2 pictures overlap exactly. See, by crossing my eyes, I can make the quill pens from each picture overlap in the middle. Wait. Well, did you manage to see it properly, Runo? Yes, I saw it. What's going on with these 2 pictures? Some of the things on the counter, they sort of jump out at you. Oh, I did not see it at all then. I thought we were talking about the broken lamp. Oh well. Yes, that's it, you see. That's the other amazing power of stereoscopes. Other amazing power? Someone going to explain this black magic, eh? Why the deuce do some of the things on the counter seem to jump out at you like that, I think you'll find that if you consider the basic principle of the stereoscope, you'll answer your own question. Basic principles of the stereoscope. As said before, if you try to look at two identical pictures using a stereoscope, it won't work at all. It's the slight shift in the position of certain objects that lets you see the picture three-dimensionally. In other words, even though at first glance it seems the objects on the counter haven't moved at all between the two pictures, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. It shows that actually there must have been a slight shift in their positions. Yes, there must have been. Now hold fire there, sir. Got a reasonable grasp of this whole cross-eyed business now, I'd say. But why the devil does this shift between the two prints exist in the first place? Well, what's the answer, fellow? Come on, you're the cross-eyed master. What, me? I haven't the first idea. You know, Runo, it's quite simple. It is. Just think it through step by step. The first photograph was taken at 1 a.m. Then 30 minutes later, the second photograph was taken. The position of some items on the counter appear to have shifted slightly in the interim. So that means that sometime in the half-hour interval, someone must have tampered with the things on the counter. Zookers! Someone tampered. New information. Stop. Not mentioned in testimony so far. Stop. Yes. We've had to go around in circles a little here, it seems. But I'm starting to see what I should be aiming at in the summation examination now. Ladies and gentlemen, the question now is clear. We know the items on the countertop were moved, but by whom? Are you suggesting that you might know? Of course. I'll tell you right now who is responsible for the almost imperceptible shift in these items on the counter. Can we? I feel like the answer wouldn't be one of the Skulkins, because how do we prove? It would probably be Mr. Windibank, right? Quite clearly it was the work of this meddler. I'm afraid you digress there, counsel. It should now be clear even to you who is responsible for the impeachable shift in the direction of this trial toward the absurd. Let me guess, me. Shift aside, my Nipponese friend, and let the real lawyers do the talking. I really felt that one. Think about it, it has to have been someone who was in Windibanks when everything was going on, doesn't it? Yes, that's true, so that narrows it down quite a lot, I think. I'll have another think. We know somebody must have touched the things on Mr. Windibank's counter, so who was it? Okay, I'm gonna save because I may end up slightly or not slightly trial and erroring this thing. So narrowing it down, we have the Skulkin Brothers. We have Gina. We already know it's not Mr. Pawnbroker himself. I feel like it's gotta be one of the Skulkin brothers, I guess, but why would...
Take that!
It was the witnesses currently in the stand, the Skulkin Brothers. Wait, this does not agree with what brothers said in testimony before. They said they did not even have time to pull dukes from Lucy Lockets. My phrase book says dukes is meaning hands, and Lucy Lockets is meaning pockets. But is this another lie? Is that what you are saying? Yes, I'm afraid so. Now hold on there a minute, you can't be sure of that. Quite agree. The accused is a common pick purse, after all. It's perfectly possible that she went through the things on the desk to see what she might steal. I think that's unlikely. And why, exactly? As you can see from this photographic print, the defendant was pointing a gun at the victim. It would seem as my learned friend indicated that she was coercing Mr. Winterbank to open the storeroom door. In other words, Mrs. Lestrade's interest lay within the storeroom, not in the main shop, giving her no reason to touch anything on the counter. All of which points to one thing. Skulkin Brothers have omitted key facts in their testimony. Ooh, excuse me. But the accused is a pick purse. Common gutter trash. Why look any further for the wrongdoer here? Because the Skulkin Brothers are thieves, man. No better, in fact worse than a pick purse. I believe that these brothers were looking for something on the victim's counter that night. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you would condemn the defendant on the grounds that she is a pickpocket, would it not at least be right and proper to thoroughly scrutinize the testimony given against her by two thieves? Well said. I, for one, would like to hear more from that shady pair. Did he do that earlier? I didn't notice. Can you all see now? I think you'll find stereoscopes aren't playthings. You've seen their extraordinary potential firsthand. Wholeheartedly agree. Stop. Must purchase after trial. Stop. Will return home via Regent Street. Stop. Well, it would seem. Excuse me. This trial has yet to run its course. The ladies and gentlemen of the jury have declared their inclinations via the mighty scales of justice. I hereby call this summation examination to conclusion, with the balance altered in the defendant's favor. 2 lean guilty, 4 lean to not guilty. Accordingly, the jury is without consensus. I order this trial to continue. Yay, well done. Oh, by the way, what? You should hold on to this, Bruno. You never know when it might come in useful. Twice in one trial would be unusual, surely, but alright. They are finally giving me a stereoscope, so I don't have to do the thing with my eyes. Lord Van Zeeks. You will instruct the witnesses that the court demands additional testimony from them. I'm sure it won't spoil the bouquet to do so, my lord. I've won myself another chance to probe that pair about their activities that night, at least. I won't stop probing them until I've proven that Gina is innocent. To be continued. Right now. I'm gonna get another dranky drank. I'll be right back. This chair does not slide very well on this carpet. This is also a very cold can. Ow, ow. Okay, let's try to open this as far away from the microphone as possible. Still loud. Okay. I tried my best. Order, please. Let us resume the proceedings. Witnesses, you will now retake the stand. Presume you heard the defense counsel's summation examination? Oh yeah, governor. I did, Gov, I did. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. Core blimey! This is gonna be hard work. Earlier in this trial, you gave the following testimony about your actions after you entered Windibanks. Well, it was bedlam soon as, weren't it? You have to pop your two prints in here to start with, you see? And then when you look through the eyepieces, you can see the image in 3 dimensions. The important thing to get right is the position of the 2 prints. I don't know who came up with the idea of a stereoscope, but it's really quite fascinating. Ooh, look at that. It's totally changed shape just from one little button press. Well, that is what the button's for, Runo. You're just like Hurley. You boys love pressing buttons, don't you? Especially if you don't know what they do. Us boys, says the 10-year-old girl. Anyway, now you can see that it really is a stereoscope, can't you? Can we, like, place the pictures in it? Or are we just able to, like, present a stereoscope anytime we want now? Oh, I see. The 2 prints go, like, on that little rack thing. It was, Nash, it was. Didn't even have time to pull me dukes out me Lucy lockets. However, that was a lie. You brothers, core blimey. On the night in question, you rifled through the items on the victim's counter. We never done nothing of the sort. How'd you figure that out? You will now give formal testimony once again. You will tell the court precisely what happened on the night in question, and this time, you will tell the truth. Each lie that passes your lips serves to increase the severity of your punishment. And that, gentlemen, may deal a crushing blow to your chances of ever seeing the light of day again. A thought worth pondering, perhaps. Say no more, Gov, we ear ya. We'll blab, we'll squeak, we'll peach. Alright, we did knock a few things over, but we weren't rifling for nothing. It was when we heard the gunshot, see? Made us both jump and all that start flying. And all that stuff went flying. Lummy, it didn't half give me a fright. We was thinking the shooter'd come out the door and get us next. We stuck everything back where we found it and scarpered. Straight into him in the black. We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see? We never even had a chance, did we? So you admit to the defense's accusation. You did indeed ransack Mr. Windibank's countertop on the night in question. Or not ransack, Governor, no. That's right, Nash, that's right. It's more like we tidied up, yeah. Sorry. By their own admission, these brothers entered the pawnbrokery under dubious circumstances. However, they panicked and fled on hearing the gunshot, having first made good their mess. The way you say it, we hardly sound like roughs at all. We don't, Nash, we don't. Can't you make us sound a bit more cutthroat? It can't just be coincidence that these men showed up at Windbanks that night. There's more to their testimony than meets the eye. I'm sure of it. Alright, we did knock a few things over, but we weren't rifling for nothing. If that's the case, then why didn't you testify to that effect in the first place? Well, you know, we ain't exactly squeaky clean, are we? We ain't, Nash, we ain't. If we admitted to something like that, people would think we was up to no good. Well said, Ringo me old China. We'd only land ourselves in even more trouble. And in fact now, as a result of lying in your previous testimony, that's exactly what you've done, landed yourselves in even more trouble. Ah, well, that's rotten luck, says the rotten apple eater. Witnesses, explain your actions to the court. Why did you ransack the victim's counter? We never ransacked nothing. Right, Nash, right. More like we tidied the place up. Sorry.
Hold it!
So what you're saying is, the sound of the gunshot shocked you so much you knocked all those things off the counter? Well, it shocked one of us that much, yeah. This bag of nerves needs to learn to keep his shirt on. Look, it was loud, all right. Blimey, me dead granny would have woken up at that bang. Big bruv ear screamed like a bloomin' baby and fell over on the counter. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. That got tangled in some marionette, what knocked over a picture frame, what knocked them scales on the floor. You've really mastered working quietly then. What a racket! Me granny would have been scared back into her grave at a clatter like that. So in short, the gunshot took you by surprise. And then some. I mean, it was quiet as a mouse, and then all of a sudden, bam!
Excuse me.
Inspector Gregson, do you have something to add? Like I keep saying, I don't appreciate being lumped in with these scoundrels. No, something to add about their testimony. You seemed to react just now at what Mr. Skulkin said. Did it make you think of something? Probably nothing, of course. I wouldn't even bother to mention it, only... Well, the fact is, cases don't get solved if you ignore the little details. How about you just tell us what's on your mind? As you know, we brought these fellas into the yard for questioning last night, and the statement they gave then told a slightly different story to what they're saying now. Did it? You claimed you heard the victim shout something out before the gunshot. Might have, Gov, might have. It does ring a bell now you mention it. Granted, it's only a minor detail, but still, can't help feeling like perhaps you've been a bit sloppy with your testimony. If I discover the witness's testimony has been any more sloppy than it has hitherto proven to be, I shall be forced to bring the very harshest punishment to bear against them. Easy, easy, we'll get it right this time. That's it, yep, it's all coming back to me now. Then speak. Supplement your testimony with whatever details have miraculously returned to your questionable mind, sir. Right you are, Gov. Just before the gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Give me that gun!"
Hold it!
So in fact, you heard the voice and the gunshot almost simultaneously? We did, Gov, we did. Though I suppose if you're being honest, we heard a kind of waver in voice before the yell and all. If you don't want to get shot, give me that gun. Kind of thing. A career in acting tragically missed. And where were the voices coming from, could you tell? Of course we could, from the other side of that door, behind the counter it was. From the storeroom where the victim was found dead. And the voice you heard, it was that of the victim, Mr. Windibank? On me granny's life, of course it was. On his granny's life, of course it was. So that would mean that you both knew Mr. Windibank and the sound of his voice. So that would mean what? What, Nash? What? Any ideas? Yes, Counsel, indeed it would. Nah. We didn't know the geezer. How am I supposed to deny it when the bloke and all the fancy clobbers giving us the evil eye? If you value your lives, you will ensure your testimony is accurate and true. On me granny's life it is. On his granny's life it must be. Good job, his granny's dead. To summarize then, immediately after hearing the voice of the victim, you then hear the gunshot, causing you to stumble and upset items on the counter, scattering them all over the shop floor. You make it sound like we're clumsy. Don't forget we tidied up after like good little boys, anyway the way I see it. Hold on. The bloke what owned the place was holding a gun, so he should have just fired instead of yelling at the girl. You're saying that Mr. Windibank had a gun in his hands? Oh yeah, but that was a sight, eh? Them two waving them guns at each other. Must have gotten pretty heated. I mean, just before he shouted out, we heard the geezer say, "If you don't want to get shot." Didn't really sound like he meant it, mind. More of an empty threat, you could say. Mr. Windibank was known to keep a revolver on his shop counter at all times. People say that to protect the articles in his keeping, he'd readily put a bullet in someone's head if required. That someone being himself, of course. Good grief! Extraordinary devotion indeed, if alarmingly misguided. Well, he certainly sounded like he was ready to pull the trigger the other night. And the person he was gonna shoot beat him to it. Cooked his goose proper. Bet he wished he'd squeezed the trigger instead of wasting time shouting, "Give me that gun." It was directly after those words that you heard the gunshot? It was more or less at the same time, Gov. Give me that gun. Bam. Kinda thing. Yes, a career in acting very tragically missed. Then we heard the sound of someone hitting the deck before everything went dead quiet. After that, we done a slapdash job tidying the place up. No, you didn't have to give me a fright. We was thinking the shooter would come out the door and get us next. I mean... where is it? We definitely present something to this, right? But... is it the photograph of Gina? What do we present here? I'm gonna save... we're definitely gonna be save scumming a bit. Because we're getting to... like... some logic puzzles that I'm not entirely sure I know the answers to.
Objection.
Okay, the music didn't even change, so I'm gonna go ahead and just go ahead and load that save. Maybe we need to like get some more information first, because I feel like that should.
Hold it.
So you didn't try to open the storeroom door then? Not on your life. It went deathly quiet after that, it did, put the wind right up me. But anyway, the door was locked, weren't it? No way that was opening. Yes, of course, it was locked from the inside, or so we've been led to believe. It was, Gov, it was, from the inside. Right, so we had no way of knowing what was going on in there, did we? Unless there was some other way to get a view of the inside of the storeroom. Through the keyhole, or a spy hole, perhaps. Don't ring no bells, don't light no lights. We had to cut and run before we noticed anything like that. We were still cutting our teeth in this game, see? But one day, we'll really cut the mustard. Please cut it out. As we know, behind that door was the victim's lifeless body, with the accused not 2 feet away. Yes, unfortunately. Gina was in there, unconscious, with a gun in her hand. To confirm, would it be correct to say that neither of you set foot inside the storeroom? That's right, Gov, that's right. Couldn't have, even if we wanted to. Hold on. Could we present... Is there like a photograph of the thing?
Objection.
There we go. You're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Wenderbank, was wielding a gun? Is that correct? That's it, Gov. You got the picture. Yes, Nash, yes. No question. And yet the photographic evidence from the time of the incident clearly shows Mr. Wenderbank was not in possession of a firearm of any description. You surprise me. Does the defense really intend to highlight evidence that compromises the position of the accused even more? Ah. Furthermore, the defense has failed to establish that the photographic print presented was taken a suitably short time prior to the victim's death. Your chronology is severely lacking, counsel. Yeah, that's right. Too right, Nash, too right. The old geezer could have been about to turn the tables on the girl, eh? Hardly likely. I'm afraid this won't stand as conclusive evidence. Continue with the cross-examination, counsel. Heed my earlier warning, witnesses. Skulkin's never skulkin'. So that was a contradiction, but I assume we need to get more information from this testimony before we're allowed to move on, basically. Yes, whereupon you fired a shot from your own gun at Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Oh, yeah, we was a bit hasty there. We was, Nash, we was. Truth be told, I was already shaking like a leaf when you lot turned up. You're shaking like a leaf, don't put a loaded gun in your hand. Good advice, miss, good advice. Truth be told, me mind went totally blank. Before your mind goes totally blank, make sure you don't have a loaded gun in your hand. Mental note made, miss. After that, we legged it down the street, but apparently we looked dodgy to the coppers or something, so they clapped the darbies on us like winking. After you'd been handcuffed, the police found this revolver in your possession, correct? Well, yeah. But listen, that proves it, done it, eh? We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see? We never even had a chance, did we?
Hold it!
Now why should we believe that? And what? Well, because it's true, isn't it? The place was totally empty when we went in. At that time, the victim was already in the storeroom, having been forced to open the door by the accused who had a gun to his head. In other words, on the night in question, these two witnesses never even laid eyes on the proprietor of the pawnbrokery, Mr. Winterbank. Correct? You got it, mister. Down to a T. So the Skulkin Brothers never actually encountered Mr. Winterbank. Is that really true, I wonder? That's it? That's the full extent of their testimony? What is it, Runo? You look very fierce. I could pour you some herbal tea if you're tired. Oh, thank you, but I'm fine. Being such a logical thinker, you'll probably laugh, but I feel as though these brothers are still hiding something. Something important. It is nothing more than a feeling, though. I've got no proof to support it. It can be very logical at times. Use expressions, the movement of their eyes, the words they choose. Take all that in, and your brain will quietly analyze it to come up with a feeling like you described. You concluded that there's something suspicious about this testimony without knowing why. That's all. You should trust your instincts. Iris, thank you. Sometimes I think if she's 10 years old, I must be 5. So we did knock a few things over. So now can I present the photograph?
Objection.
Objection.
And here's the objection again. Okay. I guess, do we have any other proof? One gentleman's overcoat. £4, redemption deadline 15th of April. The Hound of the Baskervilles? That's right, I used Daddy's notes to write it. I think it's a great story. I don't know why Hurley's forbidden me to publish it. No, it's strange, isn't it? Perhaps it's a problem with the title. Perhaps Mr. Sholm is a family friend of someone who has the name or something. Well, it doesn't quite have the same ring to it, but I could change it to the Hound of the Nargahodos. Fairly sure that Mr. Sholmes is a friend of someone who has that name too. Broker perishes in Pickford's plunder. How awful for Ginny. Tomorrow's headline will be discharged, yada yada yada. guess I'm trying to figure out, like, what can we present? Did we press on this? We didn't try to open the storeroom. Okay, so we've already did this. Here we go. Hold on, this is like different, right? Confirm, would it be correct to say that neither of you two stepped in the storeroom? Good enough even if we'd wanted to. Okay. I don't know. What else could it be? Interesting, there's no, like, whatever that is in the other picture. Tell you what, I'm gonna be bad, I'm gonna Google this. Let me see. Present. Crime scene photograph. Which one is that? Crime scene photograph. On statement 3? Okay. I would have never gotten this.
Objection.
So you're saying But on that night in question, the victim, Mr. Wendebank, was wielding a gun. Is that correct? That's it, Gov. You've got the picture. He has, Nash. He has. No question. And yet, photographic evidence obtained immediately after the incident clearly shows Mr. Wendebank was not holding a firearm of any description. Hey, you what? Gordon Bennett, that ain't right.
Objection!
There can be no question that the victim's revolver was used in the incident. I would remind the court that Mr. Wendebank's gun was found at the scene. Not only was it identified as the murder weapon, but it was found in the accused's hand. Yeah, that mall tooler used the victim's own gun to finish him off. Okay, I'm gonna close this guide now because I want to try to do this on my own for the rest, but I would have never figured that out. Give me that gun. Bam. Kind of thing.
Hold it!
Stay exactly where you are, right there. Eh? If the crime had taken place as you've so colorfully described in your testimony, it would give rise to an undeniable and significant inconsistency in the final moments you just acted out. Goodness, are you sure, counsel? You intrigue me, my learned friend, but let's see some evidence to support your claim. Where's the proof that demonstrates this inconsistency in the witness's portrayal of the victim's final moments? Well, the autopsy report.
Take that!
He was shot in the back. According to their testimony, witnesses claim to have heard a shout of, "Give me that gun," followed by the gunshot. Indeed, with the two events happening almost simultaneously, or so we've been led to believe. Yes, that's right. Now, if that testimony is true, it would mean that at the moment of the death, the victim and his attacker would have been facing each other. However, in the autopsy report, it clearly states that the victim died instantly after being shot from behind. Ah. So, as I stated before, there is an undeniable inconsistency in your testimony, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. Nyaga. But it's the God's honest truth. It is, Nash, it is. When he was shot that night, the shopkeeper had a gun in his hand. We saw it with our own bleeding eyes. Did I hear you right, Nash? Just now you actually saw Mr. Wendebank holding a gun? Somewhat like that might have slipped out. Ladies and gentlemen, you have all just heard the admission by these two witnesses. And on the night in question, they actually saw with their own eyes the victim wielding a gun. Which can only mean that despite their testimony to the contrary, Skulkin Brothers must have encountered the victim in person. Nash, Nyar. Order, order, order! Witnesses, explain yourselves at once. Well, the thing is, it weren't supposed to, It would seem that my previous warning fell on deaf ears. I made it quite clear that false witness would be the death of you. Am I to understand that you replaced the untruths of your original testimony with renewed lies? Ever so sorry, Governor. Truth is, see, we, Cut it out, Nash. Cut it out. If we blab now, you know what it'll do to us. He? Who are they talking about? Let me make your position here perfectly clear. You will talk. There is no other option available to you. Bruv, come on, the game's up. But you'll have our guts for garters. Because it hasn't quite sunk in yet. No matter how hard you try to hide it, the truth will come out. On the night in question, it is now apparent that you brothers met face to face with the victim. I demand that you testify again to explain the precise circumstances under which this meeting took place. Oh, well. Do we have to? On pain of death. So just to make yourselves fully aware that this is your very last chance to tell the truth. Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and heaved a sigh of relief when the geezer showed his mug. Give me that gun, he bellowed, then he flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we'd had it. For an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox. He chucked me over the counter. I pulled my gun on him, and then he legged it through that door into the back room. We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what happened, I swear. So you're now telling us that moments before the victim was killed in the storeroom, you in fact encountered him in the main part of the shop. Well, yeah, sorry. Well, we find ourselves at an interesting juncture. This changes matters considerably. But honest, Governor, this time, Nash, this time, we ain't got nothing more to hide. Very well, counsel for the defense, you may proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. This is it, the moment I've been waiting for. Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and heaved a sigh of relief when the geezer showed his mug. You say geezer, I presume you mean the victim and proprietor of the shop, Mr. Windibank? Who else? Sorry, I mean, that's right. Just keeping a close eye on the entrance to the gaff, obviously. You never thought no one was going to come out of the back room like that. Back room being the pawnbroker's storeroom. Yeah, that must be where he popped up from, only place he could have been. It would seem the victim was already in the storeroom when these brothers entered the premises. Which means Jenny must have been in there at that point as well. That doesn't make sense, does it? If Gina had threatened Mr. Windibank into the storeroom with her at gunpoint, then why would he have emerged from the same room all alone when the brothers arrived? Oh, I don't know. Did you see the accused at that time? What, that Maltooler? Couldn't tell ya. No way, Cobber. We had bigger fish to fry then. I mean, the old geezer just lost it. Give me that gun, he bellowed, and then he flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we'd had it. Mention that Mr. Windibank shouted those words in your previous testimony too, however you claimed that you heard him yelling that on the other side of the storeroom door. Oh, did we? The truth is he was shouting those words at you, wasn't he? Oh, well, yeah. Was the victim, Mr. Windibank, wielding a gun at that time? Was he ever? Blimey lummy. Great ugly barrel he had. Pointed straight at me frontispiece. So what you're saying is, you definitely saw Mr. Windibank with the gun at that time, is that right? It is, Gov, it is. Spot on. Then all of a sudden he came at us, he did. It was bedlam. I didn't know who was going for who. We're clearly all going for each other. Like Nash said, we thought we'd had it. I mean... For an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox. He chucked me over the counter. Tell you what, we are a little over my usual ending time today. I'm gonna call it a night tonight. Okay, I know I said I just closed that guide. Let me check. Let me check how long the rest of the game is. If there are like more parts to this, I'm going to wait. Otherwise, I will do it tonight. Okay, yeah, there are like 2 whole other parts of this trial. We're gonna wait and do this next week. Hopefully by next week my computer will be fixed. best way to stay updated on that is to follow me or join my Discord. I will see y'all at some point. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Thursday, maybe not till next week. I honestly don't know. I'll just keep everybody posted in Discord as things develop. But I will talk to you whenever I talk to you next. And have a good night.